And what does it mean to be application aware with advanced data management capabilities that for Kubernetes native frameworks for cloud native storage? This session will offer examples of extending agility, efficiency, and portability of Kubernetes to applications like AI, ML, and custom apps on any infrastructure that's on-premise, hybrid, cloud, and also multi-cloud. On this session are Robin.io's Tushar Doshi, he's Senior Technical Director. We also have AT&T's Rupesh Chokshi, he's Vice President of Product Strategy and Innovation. And on the end next is Intel's Rajesh Gadiyar, he's Vice President and General Manager of the Network and Edge Group. And gentlemen, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for, good having you. Good to have you again. We've done this just before with Rupesh. Tushar, this is new for us, doing it for the first time.
Pleasure to be here.
You'll do a great job. And Rajesh, we've done this several times before. I believe the last time we were all in Barcelona, which was in 2018, I believe. Or 2019.
2019, yeah.
And see, it was that far back. Yeah. And so it's good to have you. All right. So this is somewhat of a technical discussion as opposed to more of our high-level thought leadership discussions. So should be interesting. I want to start with you, Rajesh, if you don't mind. Stateful workloads, a bit of a tongue twister, being deployed by containers or in containers by public infrastructure as a service providers. Why is this trend increasing?
Yeah, that's a great question. But before I answer that, first of all, it's like you said, great to be here in Barcelona at Mobile World Congress, in person, meeting with real people. And second, actually, I want to start by congratulating Partha and Tushar and the Robin team on the recent acquisition. Congratulations. And so coming to your question, actually, so it's really interesting times, right? So there's been a really nice buzz about 5G. And of course, 5G is a great technology. We've been talking about it for the last few years. But it's really what 5G affords. And if you look at the new age services, from autonomous driving to video services and immersive media, they all actually have a requirement for low latency and quality of experience. And as a result, it cannot be just transactional like it used to be, like a device talking to the cloud. So many of these new age requirements really require the cloud to come closer to where the application is and where the data resides, okay? And so in a way you can think of it as basically a marriage of cloud and communications or compute and communications. And so when you sort of think about it in that parlays, what becomes really important then is, unlike the transactional nature of like what the device and cloud communication used to be, on the wireless side, communication side, there are actually requirements associated with mobility and roaming. And as a result, there is a need for some level of state to be maintained, because when a user is moving, clearly there are actually transactions that are dependent on each other. And so as a result, actually the data that's associated with the users, the applications, it requires a slightly different paradigm. And so many of these applications need to be stateful, and this is where Robin has really excelled in actually helping many of these applications that require that have the stateful nature. How do you actually manage the data efficiently? How do you actually have the metadata aware application scheduling? So that's basically what's going on, and why there is a need to support stateful and like managed data accordingly.
So just to add to that, right? So in Kubernetes, right, it's mostly designed to run stateless applications to start with. So now people have realized the importance of Kubernetes for managing their applications. So that includes, say, healing or scaling or other workflows, right? So it essentially became that it's very easy to manage when you have a platform like Kubernetes supporting you. So now people have realized the importance of running stateless applications, and now they are thinking, oh, so I can deploy stateless applications there, why not add all those benefits back to the stateful application? So that's where I think people are looking to adopt more and more stateful applications in Kubernetes.
That's right. It's actually about, like Tushar said, it's about ease of use, right? So you don't want actually to manage the statefulness outside of Kubernetes. Kubernetes has become the tool of choice. So you want to actually provide that ease of use by providing the ability to manage both stateless and stateful applications with the cloud native approach using Kubernetes.
Okay, again, for the audience out there that may be not as astute on this subject as you are, the correlation between being application aware and cloud native storage. Can you sort of tie those two together for us?
Yeah. So what, I mean, before Kubernetes, right, people are used to manage applications in a particular way. So say I am, say MySQL administrator or a Kafka administrator. So what I'm looking for is my application should be easy to deploy, but it's not just that the day zero I deploy and that's done, right? So what they are interested in is what happens in day two. What happens if somebody makes a mistake and drops a table from database? How do I recover from that? So people are looking to have a support for, say, snapshots, right, where you can go back in time using that. Or people are looking for backup, which could be on premises or backing up into the cloud so that I can recover it whenever I want. Or they want the cloud portability where I can move applications from one data center to the other and so on, right? And of course, right, with the compliance and all coming into picture, the disaster recovery is also an important question where if, I mean, we have seen examples that even public clouds are not resilient to site failures, right? So you have to have, your business should be running no matter if the site goes down or not, right? So now, if you consider all these use cases, people want these use cases, and this should not be just, this is not just the storage problem or network problem or the compute problem, right? It's an application problem. So what we have realized early in our design and development is, if we have to provide all these lifecycle capabilities, it should be application centric and not just the storage compute network centric. So that's where the application awareness comes in. So now when you take a snapshot, it should be the whole application which should be snapshotted or backed up and so on, and not just the part of it, right? So that's where the application awareness comes in. And in the cloud native storage, I mean, when you are talking about, since we talked about that stateful applications are now coming to Kubernetes, and they are important for 5G in terms of subscriber management or the PCF, the policy core functions. So it becomes very important to have the similar capabilities at the application level rather than the individual piece level. So that's why it's very important to be application awareness when people are talking about onboarding them for those 5G use cases.
Rupesh, from an operator's perspective, the correlation between application awareness and maybe just cloud native.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we early on got on the journey of software-defined networks, and application awareness was the key, right? You make the network aware of what the application wants to do. With the investments that Rajesh was mentioning in terms of 5G, it's all here. So when you have a high-speed, intelligent, app-aware, software-defined network capability, the modernization of the application, the ability for the use cases that you were describing, Tushar, is very important. So I feel that the capabilities are all there, and there is an opportunity to make it even more better. You mentioned about recovery, etc., and I would say in the world of cybersecurity, right, just the ability to rebuild, get more operational again. Having distribution, at so many different places requires a lot of, technical juice, right? And kind of think about it very differently.
Just for illustration, so I think application aware, if you sort of think about, there are applications that require maybe strong encryption. Others might actually require maybe faster data transfers and not such strong encryption, right? Some applications may require data compression, right? There's probably a need to sort of coordinate data as well. So this is where actually the nature of some of these applications really require application aware, maybe metadata aware kind of approaches. I just want to actually give you a couple of examples of where this thing really comes to the fore.
Yeah. Absolutely. I was just going to say, Rupesh, if you could offer maybe an example of extending agility, efficiency, or portability of Kubernetes to these applications like AI, ML, and custom apps as well. Is there an example you can offer?
Yeah, sure. Again, we're here at Mobile World Congress, right, in Barcelona. You walk around, you will see tremendous amount of, computer vision, right? You see cameras, videos, a lot of data being captured and being analyzed at that sort of, localized edge, and applying the AI models to figure out what do I do with it. Like a lot of use cases that I saw was that, hey, can we do fall prevention? Is the robot working at the speed that it is supposed to work, right? What is the efficiency that you're going to gain in the hospital when you do remote patient monitoring or trying to recognize how the patient is reacting? So the amount of technical capabilities that you need to do all of these things in real time, whether it is the AI models or the machine learnings or the localized processing, I think is going to be equally important to deliver these use cases at scale.
Tushar, an example?
Yeah, so I think I just wanted to go to back to a point, the cybersecurity. That was a major point, right? I mean, the instances that we have seen is the ransomware cases where, I mean, the data is encrypted. Now you have no way to go, right? If it's and I think one of the example, I don't remember the exact, but there was a hospital data, right, which is very critical. Now, if you don't have a backup, then it's very hard that you could survive your business, right? So that's very important. Coming back to the question of agility, efficiency, and portability, right? So now, as we have seen, so what people like is as much as vendor agnostic as possible, whether it's a cloud environment, on-premises, or so on, right? So we have seen examples where even 5G, it's not just the on-premises, but even the clouds are offering, are trying to come into the same space. So what people want is the portability of their application, whether it is cloud, on-premises, or any other vendor, right? So that becomes very important, that you provide a portability for these applications, independent of what underlying platform is. In terms of efficiency, right? I mean, 5G, as you know, it's very latency sensitive. All the applications are very latency sensitive. That's where I think the AT&T and Intel has a very important part to play to come up with the infrastructure and the ecosystem for achieving this higher agility and efficiency. And same thing goes for the storage, where you have the application running and you have the subscriber data, and you don't want any latency just because your storage is slow, right? And that's where what we thought is, okay, we have to have a focus for running this latency sensitive applications, and that's where the importance of all these features comes in the applications that are really latency sensitive.
By the way, oh, sorry.
I think just one point I want to add, right, from a kind of a simple layman's perspective, right? The way I view it is that Kubernetes is providing a platform that you can easily port. So you're not trying to create an application fit for use that says, I'm going to run it over here, so I got to create it this way. We know that customers and developers are going to be in multi-cloud environments, right? So their ability to port those applications utilizing the Kubernetes platform gives them tremendous advantage. Otherwise, you are stuck where you are, and then, if you need to make significant upgrades or deal with security issues, etc., the amount of time it's going to take you as a developer and the owner of the application is significant.
Yeah, and maybe the other thing to think about also is automation at scale, right? I mean, we are dealing with deployments that run into like maybe thousands of cameras, right, and thousands of edge locations, and all of these actually you can no longer roll a truck, and the ability to sort of like automate at scale, bring up these platforms. I think Rupesh mentioned analytics, the ability to sort of like take these 1,000 streams and look for certain kinds of patterns in an automated fashion. It's just becoming increasingly so critical, and all of this actually would require low latency processing, right? And all of this would need to be application aware.
I wanted to ask you about, and we can go down the line here, about hybrid cloud capabilities and why they're so important for, let's say, applications like cloning an application. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So when we were in journey, when we are trying to get these applications at the production level on Kubernetes, what we saw was there are typical challenges that even non-Kubernetes applications also see. So one of the challenges, I'll give you an example of, say, I want to upgrade my application. Now, upgrade is a cumbersome process no matter how you have your application designed. So we said that, okay, you have this problem, how do we solve it, right? Since Kubernetes is very flexible and agile environment. So the thing that we came up with, okay, what if I can test my upgrade before actually performing an upgrade on your production application? So the way we solve the problem is, okay, your application is running, you take a snapshot, you create a clone of that application. So essentially you have another copy of the application running which has exactly the same state as your production application, and run upgrade on your clone. So now you are not impacting your original application, but still you have tested your upgrade good enough on your clone. If that fails, you fix it, try it again, and you repeat the process. When you are satisfied, you go back and upgrade your application, right? And same thing, I think we talked about cloud portability. That's one of the powerful cloud capabilities that we need in the environment where things can move around, whether it is for scaling, like say you have a holiday period and say you need more resources, which your application typically runs on premises, but for holiday period you need that burst, right? So now you say, okay, I want to port my application during say Thanksgiving or a Christmas period when people are actually doing a lot of shopping, and deploy it in the cloud for that time. You scale as much as you want. When you are done, you go back to your on-premises, right? So that's one of the use cases that becomes important. And same thing with is what we have seen is the DR is very important for these applications nowadays, because one is you don't want your business to be down no matter what. Plus another is from compliance perspective, you might have to do it as well, right? So now when people are talking about DR, they are saying, okay, what if I have one site which is on premises? I don't want to invest in multiple on-premise sites, so I can have a cloud as one of my target location, and I can have that functionality where I have a cluster where the application is running on premises, and I do a DR on the cloud environment, right? And that becomes one of the powerful capabilities that you might need in your applications and your platform.
Rajesh, I want to talk about partnerships and collaborations. Let's talk about specifically bringing advanced data management really to power stateful applications. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, I think what better example than actually the two gentlemen that are sitting here, right? So we've been actually collaborating with Robin for a long time in this area, and I think the level of automation that actually they have delivered across hybrid cloud environments, right? And at scale for 5G in the radio access network, and these are real deployments that scale thousands of nodes in Rakuten, for example, right? AT&T has actually done similarly, really massive at scale automation. So I think from a partnership perspective, what Intel does really well is how do we sort of like lift all boats and really sort of like grow the ecosystem. So that's been a lot of our focus. The other partnership which probably gets less attention is like really what happens behind the scenes actually in terms of how we collaborate in open source communities. I think a lot of like what we're talking about here in terms of application aware data management, and especially in the context of cloud native and Kubernetes, Kubernetes actually affords us what's called as a container storage interface, CSI, right? And a lot of like the nature of this data that we are handling, it's actually persistent data. So what Intel has done is a lot of focus on, of course, performance and how do we actually improve the compute performance for processing databases. We also brought in a technology for persistent memory, and then what we've done is actually developed a container storage interface for what we call as PMM CSI that actually makes the persistent memory look like basically a file system, right? And we've been actually working with Robin on this one as well. So these are the kind of things that we've been actually looking to do, both in terms of a partnership in communities and open source communities as an example, and also in the ecosystem, really sort of like driving what is needed to really sort of like deliver the virtues of distributed processing, 5G and edge, and then partnering with companies like Robin, AT&T to really sort of like take it to deployment.
Before we get to Tushar, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, just to build upon what both gentlemen said, right? So one is, I like what you said where the innovation is happening up and down the stack, right? So whether you are a chip manufacturer, whether you are a service provider, whether you are a software technology provider, and we're sort of building upon each other, right? So you put like this interesting demand, right? So the service provider says, hey, I need to do this thing at scale. So I need more kind of processing power and I need the software to be faster, right? So, and then vice versa, it goes up and says, hey, if we can put so much power into a device or a handset, what more can we do, etc. So that is one point, which I think is excellent on the innovation side. The second is, I think we live in a world hybrid, right? I think just like in real estate, people talk about location, location, location. I think today and for the next so many years, it's going to be hybrid cloud, hybrid networks, hybrid devices, you name it, right? It's going to be hybrid, hybrid, hybrid. And giving the ability to kind of go back and forth, which is what some of the software platforms that we're talking about provide, is very important, very important.
Tushar, advanced data management to power stateful applications. What's your perspective on that? as far as collaboration and partnerships and so
partnership
forth.
are concerned, right? Yeah. So as I think Rajesh was saying, right? I mean, Intel has been a phenomenal partner for us, and I think the open source contribution that you guys have in terms of Multus plugins and various CNIs has been I think the most important piece in the puzzle that was needed for bringing this 5G applications onto Kubernetes, right? So thanks for that. Along with other partners, what we are working is we are also trying to see if our storage stack, so even independent of what Kubernetes platform is, whether we can say OEM for a particular appliances or their infrastructure. That's one. The other one is we are also collaborating with partners like Altiostar and Mavenir and other guys to see if we can qualify their applications on our platform and have their whatever the requirements that they have, we will solve those so that they are essentially certified to run on our platform. And that's where I think the partners who are the application, whether it's a RAN, core or edge applications, we work with them and make sure that they have what they need to run our platform, right? So that's what the level of partnership that we are bringing into the community.
So the title of this session is Simplifying Kubernetes Data Management from Edge to Cloud. And Rupesh, you brought something up interesting that wasn't on this session, was on a previous session. You said the word simplify is such an important word, and you really have to qualify that word so people understand why it's important. Can you give us some insight into that and how it applies to this discussion?
I think it applies over here too, right? Because we're talking about some very sort of, complex technical things and capabilities that have to come together, right? And, I feel that, the good news is that we're back again more in person, so the learning opportunities are better. But in order for a lot of what we're talking to scale, the adoption to significantly accelerate, simplification, right? Rajesh talked about some things, snap in, they fit together better, right? The ability to do the portability, have a very efficient methodology, right? All of these things drive towards the simplicity that we need. Otherwise, it's going to take us a long time, right? And we'll keep talking about the same topic. Yeah. We want to move past the talk and walk the walk.
Yeah, I really like that. Actually, I think simplify, as you say, is the buzz, the key tenet of what is required in the industry today, right? And the way to do that, in my mind, is three things: composable, make everything composable, right? Make everything automated at scale, right? And then I think a lot of it is about heterogeneous computing as well, different kinds of resources, and how do you actually do the processing at the right locations so you can actually meet the quality and deliver the quality that's required for the applications that we're trying to actually enable in the industry.
Interesting. Tushar, anything?
Yeah, so for simplification, as I think both of you have rightly mentioned, right, it's a very important point. And so just deployment or management of application is not enough, but what you need is a higher level single pane of glass, which is managing these thousands of cluster applications, and you need to have right observability and monitoring platform and insights in terms of alerts, events, and all that, right? That is very important for this piece, and with the partnership and with the qualification that we can do, we can make it very simple for the end user, which is I think the telco provider, which essentially is our goal, to make it very simple to deploy, manage, and actually observe.
Yeah, I think the word is autonomous everything.
That's right. Tushar, it was, again, like I said at the top of the program, it's good to have you. You're a wealth of knowledge, by the way, so it's always good to have people like that on these discussions, especially when it gets somewhat technical, and you're clearly a technical person, so good to have you. I'm sure we'll have you again sometime soon.
Sure.
Thank you. Rupesh, you've been very generous with your time while you've been here in Barcelona.
Thank you.
As always.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that, and again, great perspective from the operator's point of view.
Yeah. Thank you. No, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. And Rajesh, people are thanking you left and right for your contributions on many fronts. It didn't surprise me. I've known you for many years, and I know that you're in a lot of ways the bedrock of what happens at shows like this. Maybe behind the scenes a little bit, but I know you, so I know that you're there. So
yeah, no, it's a real pleasure to be working with all our partners, and more importantly, it's actually a real pleasure to be here in person, meeting with real people. I've been missing that so much for the last couple of years, and thank you for the opportunity to be on this panel. It's been great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.